Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, good day. Hello. I'm not sure when you're listening to this, but you are listening to the Portsmouth Proud podcast. I'm your host, E. Washington, the Public Information Officer for the Portsmouth Police Department. We serve a community that's not too far from the ocean, not too far from the bay, right on the river. And we are producing this police podcast for you. So you know what's happening in your city. You know the plan, and you know how you can be a part of it. Today we have two wonderful guests. We have with us Dr. Mark Hayes. He is with the Virginia Center for Public Safety Advocacy through the Arts Learning Partnership. He is also the founder and director of the Saturday Academy. And we also have joining us today Mr. Edmond Armistead, and he is with Tough Love Productions, and he works in partnership with Dr. Hayes. Welcome, gentlemen.
Thank you, thank you, thank you.
So, we met with you, Dr. Hayes, a few months ago. So, could you bring us up to date? What has the Stop the Violence movement, the organization, what have you all been doing within the community over the past few months?
Well, first I want to just make some clarity. Violence will always be amongst us.
Yes.
You can't stop the violence because when people hear that, especially the gun violence, we had to change the verbiage.
Okay.
We had to change the verbiage because when people hear stop the violence, they go directly to the gun violence, especially amongst our community.
Okay.
So we changed the verbiage and the narrative.
Okay.
So that persons would really have a better pulse of what's going on. Since my last time being here with Alexandria, who is an advocate for the Virginia Center for Public Safety, we have been blessed to have showcased some things. In October, of course, it was the 13th annual Nonviolence Month. We partnered at that time with Black Women for Positive Change. They became a part of us because, or we became a part of them because they heard the music from the poem, It's About Saving Lives, with a shout out to Reverend Hayes.
Oh, okay.
So what we did, they asked me for some things. And by the way, the poem has been copywritten, and the music, of course, has been published. So you can't take it.
Okay.
But you can use it.
You can use it.
You can use it, but you have to really say where you received it.
Right, right.
So we did a basketball showcase.
Okay.
It was well attended with public dignitaries, parents, and youngsters who were just wowed.
Right.
Because of the behavior and because of it's about saving lives. Then the next thing we did a Voices, Vision, and Victory piece.
Okay.
Where we had Asians to perform.
Okay.
Across category, and I had to use one big word. We were blessed to see the global aspect of something simple. It's about saving lives. So that's what we've been doing. And of course, we're still in the schools. I am there at Israel Charles Norcom. The principal has what I say, she has a heart for young people. Mm-hmm. And of course, she said yes to the mural. And the mural, of course, enough is enough. It's about saving lives. And the hashtag, no bang bang.
Which, okay, again, no bang bang, okay.
Right, which another young man who works along, and I let him express that. I knew him first, so my surrogate sons, as I call them, they are actually doing what needs to be done without any of the other stuff. And they tell me to be very careful how I talk because I'm a Brooklynite.
Okay.
And I call it like it is. So they say, slow down with it just a little bit because we don't. But I come to talk about the reality
Okay.
on what's really going on, because we're really drawn together within this.
Mm-hmm.
It's about saving lives.
Okay. And so that narrative change is that went from talking about stop the violence, but as you said, community tends to um, hone in on um, gun violence when it's broader than that. And so the narrative change was to it's about saving lives. And that's the tagline that comes to the text. See it on all the material.
Yes.
It's about saving lives. And so as you mentioned Alexandria, a remarkable young lady, was here with us last time. We now have another guest. We have Mr. Edmond Armistead, and I believe you were talking about music. You talked about murals, and you talked about music, and talked about a poem. And I think this is where you come into the picture, Mr. Armistead?
Yes.
Okay.
And if I could just give the segue.
Oh, okay.
The segue to that, I simply had the poem in my hand.
Okay.
And immediately, without anything, I showed it to this young man. And he said something, oh, I can put music to this. And did he put music to it? That's the segue. And when I tell you, it has a beat that pops, even I can pop with it.
Oh, okay, okay.
So that's good.
Okay.
So that's my connection with you.
Mm-hmm.
Because some people are connected, and when you're connected, you can be disconnected. But when you have a connection, it's continuous.
Okay.
That's why he's sitting next to me.
Okay. So was it who wrote the poem?
The poem was written by the president of the Virginia Center for Public Safety.
Oh.
And I'll say his age. He just turned 80.
Okay.
And he is a poet extraordinaire.
Okay.
And he does some particular things and writings. And it was just exciting if you could have seen his face when he met the gentleman that put music to his poem, who is some 40 years younger.
Mm-hmm.
Matter of fact, maybe 50 years younger than him.
Okay.
To know that he still has it. His name is Gene Lampert, and he's affectionately known to all of us as Uncle Gene.
Uncle Gene. Okay. So Uncle Gene, the president of the Center for Public Safety?
That's correct.
Okay. He wrote the poem, and
Yes.
then Mr. Armistead, who is the owner of Tough Love Productions, he put the beat behind the poem, a popping beat behind the poem. I want to talk to you about that, about what brought you, what caused you to, what inspired you to make the beat. So obviously the poem had some effect on you. But before we go right there, I'd like to get a little bit of background information, because we know quite a bit about Dr. Hayes, and we want to know a little bit about Mr. Armistead. So can you tell us a little bit about yourself?
Okay, I'm originally from Norristown, Pennsylvania, outside of Philadelphia.
Okay.
I started out as a DJ, local neighborhood DJ, house parties.
Okay.
I later started working at a record store, started selling music. So that's my big fascination with music, working at a record store, selling the music, which later in time turned me into a producer.
Okay. Okay.
Which that got me to where I'm at today from many years of doing a lot of production for a lot of different artists. I've been throughout the United States, probably about 20 states, doing production with different artists.
Okay.
Recorded over 1,000 different artists before.
Now, are your artists, what genres of music are your artists typically?
They kind of vary. Some are, do reggae. Some do. I actually do dangdut. That's an Indonesian style music.
Oh, okay.
Produce a lot of that. Club, hip hop, jazz. I produced a couple country songs.
Oh, okay. Okay.
I'm really just all over the place when it comes to production, because I really don't have no set genre, even though hip hop is my main love.
Okay.
Yeah.
So you have been in the music industry. So what transpired for you to cross paths with Dr. Hayes?
Well, that's the funny part. I actually stopped doing music and production because what's going on with the music industry right now.
Okay.
With the drill music, the type of music they're recording right now, wasn't of my liking.
Okay.
And a lot of drama came off of that. Me being an engineer, recording certain artists from certain places, and they're saying certain things about other artists, and then they find out where they're recording at. I become the middleman.
Oh no.
So that's how I had to get out of that game.
Okay.
Of recording underground artists. So I still have a couple studios I work in, but I only deal with artists that have content.
Okay.
You know that you understand what that means.
Yeah.
Like so it's that brought me to my program that I decided to try to do something here in Portsmouth since I liked it so much. I said, well, let me try this program that I started in Philadelphia.
Okay.
What was this? Working with the kids. It's called I Know Hip Hop.
Oh, okay. Okay. I know hip hop.
Teach the kids the history of hip hop and break down the elements of hip hop and how we use it back in our time to as a lens. This is show what social ills were.
Okay.
You know, and in time that's changed, but
right.
It's hard to get the kids to understand this is where it really comes from.
Right.
So I use this as my base. You know, trying to interact with the kids.
Okay.
You know, in order to really change them, you gotta get to know them.
Right.
And find out what their interests are.
So how difficult was that? Because that type of hip hop is 30 years
That was
back.
hard. It was hard at first.
40 years back.
It was hard at first because that's what they call they call me You know, not OG and nothing like that. It's like, all right, we doing some old school hip hop. Like the transition to teach them and get them to know what we were doing was fun, and to get them to do it, that's when the joke went on them. It's like, oh, we can't do this, but the little ones enjoyed it.
Okay.
They love breakdancing. They love like what hip hop really stood for back then. When it come to dancing, they have a style of dance.
Okay.
Well, hip hop has a style of dance called breakdancing.
Okay.
So the older ones didn't want to gravitate to it, but the younger ones did.
Okay.
So it was like watching worlds collide, and then watching the older ones say, "Oh, I can do that. We'll try it then." Okay. You know, you see the little ones mess with them like, "Oh, I can do this, I can do that." Well, they're too cool to do that.
Correct. And they don't dance today. So.
And they don't. Yes. And they don't dance today.
Right. Okay. So you started. You were doing this in Philadelphia. I know hip hop, in which was teaching young people how to use hip hop as a framework or a lens to look at what's the society's ills,
right.
Different issues or conflicts that they might even see within their own lives. And so then you bring that down to Portsmouth. And at that point,
that's where I ran into Dr. Hayes.
Okay.
So in Cavalier Manor here in Portsmouth, I had a few kids that were my regulars. I haven't lost touch with them. I'm still in contact with them, even though I'm at a different location. They wanted to work on a song.
Okay.
So when the poem got across my eyes, I said, well, it looks like a rap to me.
Okay.
Because that's what I get when I read stuff. I read it real fast, and if it's because I write. So I'm like, well, I said it a couple of times to myself. I said, well, I can get each kid to say a part of it. And that was the idea. So when I told Diane, I can do something with this. So the idea was to get each kid to say a different part of that poem.
This is the same poem that...
it's about saving lives.
Okay.
I sent him the draft that we had, which the kids recorded each other on their parts. For the background vocals on the song is done by the kids from the I Know Hip Hop program. So I gave him the copy that we did as a reference, and it went from there. Okay.
So this collaboration between the two of you, our partnership started because a gentleman who is a supporter, an advocate for or against violence.
I really didn't know that much about him at first.
Okay.
You know, this is how I found out about him. He invited me to another event, and then it was like I like this guy.
Okay.
So I got somebody that I can talk up to.
Okay.
You know, somebody has a little more knowledge than I have. You know, so it's like, yeah, I got somebody, a big brother in this.
Okay.
What I'm doing it can help me. So this is how I got engaged with Dr. Hayes.
Okay. And so, okay, you said you were in Cavalier Manor and you were running this program. How did you come across this program, Dr. Hayes?
Like I always do, walking into a place, running my mouth. You know, I felt that. And I just thought, you know, I'm from Brooklyn, and having a conversation, it just, and I'm going to break it down.
Oh, he knew the kids from my program. That's what it was. The kids in my program, he knew one of the kids.
That's right.
Yeah, one of the kids I was teaching, the engineer, he knew one of the kids. And that's, yeah.
And you know, like they said, you do what you do. You do what it do. Well,
it do what it did.
It do what it do. and what you have to do. But there are two words that I look at.
Okay.
Either you're going to teach young people, or you're going to allow young people.
Okay. Teach or allow. Okay.
What I teach you, I don't allow you not to do that.
Okay.
What I allow, you've been taught something. That's respect.
Okay.
When we take a look at words, words are tools that are used. Letters make words, words make sentences. Sentences make phrases. Phrases make books. And many of our young people don't know how to read a book.
Okay.
So what happens? So what happens with that? Even within the basketball, Coach Carlton assured me that every player that we had in October would have to bring something to the table, first a book, to balance the basketball, because there's some shots we cannot take. We cannot take the shot of illiteracy.
Okay.
This is a learning partnership. I have learned that many of the young people, they want you to do what we're doing right now, but for real.
Okay.
And young people can tell automatically. That's why Alexandria could come and speak. And by the way, Alexandria, they will be coming back, hopefully very soon, to do the first It's About Saving Lives mural.
Okay.
In the headquarters of a police station located in a city known as Portsmouth.
Oh, okay.
and when they do that, they're coming out of enthusiasm. Again, I'm grateful to the principal of the school, Mr. Bullock, and of course Jalen, who did the first mural with her group of young people, and of course Alexandria was with that group. Jalen has moved on to Shenandoah University, and hopefully Alexandria, she's a senior now, she'll be moving on. And there's other young people that will also be involved.
Okay.
You know, you have to be very careful how you start mentioning names, because why this, why that? It's because maybe you weren't there.
Right.
This is not just for a photo op. I want to make that very clear. Because we all automatically know where this is going.
Okay.
It's not just to take pictures with our young people.
Right.
There's some content and there's a context to this thing. It's about saving lives. We have so many young people right now that are speaking to us from the ground because of gun violence. The lawyers, the doctors, and all of them, they're speaking loud. Get yourselves together.
Right.
So, here we are again,
Okay.
doing what we do.
And so it's about saving lives. What drew you to even start doing the I Know Hip Hop with the children? Like, what make that leap from not, you know?
I was always loving hip hop. You know, that's my passion. You know, the whole drawing graffiti, you know, drawing on books, from breakdancing, DJing, to rap and just writing raps and stuff. I was always about that's always who I was.
Mm-hmm.
But to give it back, it's like seeing an opportunity to get to see the youth do what we did. That was the reason why I started the program, because we did have a lot of kids that were interested in the graffiti side, the DJing, all different elements of it. So that's what really made me want to bring it here.
Okay.
Because it was a success in Philadelphia. It just me moving around so much, I didn't keep it going.
And now that I hit graffiti, this is learning.
Mm-hmm.
It's a learning arts. When graffiti becomes art.
Yes, it is.
When we take a look at graffiti, see, remember, hip hop started on the second floor in the Bronx.
Well, it started with graffiti in Philadelphia.
Okay, graffiti. Okay, we're not gonna go back and forth, but here we go with that. But hip hop in the Bronx. Now, let's take a look at graffiti from my time. I flagged the F train. Don't tell anybody. What does that mean? You had to write your name, and my name was done actually in yellow and orange, because you had to flag your name from your neighborhood. So the teaching aspect now, remember I said, either you're going to teach the young people or you're going to allow. You're going to teach or you're going to allow. I don't allow any disrespect, because young people teach me as well.
Mm-hmm.
And if you're always the smartest person in the room, you're not really smart.
Mm-hmm.
Because these young people are smarter in certain ways, especially with this technology. Ooh, they can slow me down. Oh no, Dr. Hayes, don't do that. Remember, it's about saving lives. We just saved your life because you could have pressed that button and you could have been destroyed. So that's across the board. It's
Okay.
about saving lives.
And so using that you talked about changing the narrative and how people can kind of try to really reduce it down to a particular type of violence, but we're even coming out from it's about saving lives is kind of removing we're broadening it to a point where we're not even necessarily thinking about the traditional way we think about violence. You made a point earlier about like there's certain shots that we can't take, and you were specifically talking about making sure that you were aligning it with like the basketball with books, because that's a representation of education and educating yourself. And saying all this, the broadening of what it means to save a life is very important, because you can't truly live if you're not educated, if you're unaware of what's going on around you, if you can't speak up for yourself because you don't have that knowledge base. And I like, because when you first say graffiti, I work for the police department, I'm automatically thinking like, oh, but using something that they're interested in and introducing them to that as an art form,
Right.
which is different from maybe where the origins or the outside of the law portion of it is. How do you balance that? I'm thinking like as a kid, if you're giving them that little bit of history, and Dr. Hayes tells him that he had to tag the F train. How do you balance that?
This is how I balance that, because the opportunities that he allows to open up for me.
Okay.
See, now there's a wall that needs to be done. See, this is where that art comes in.
Okay.
So now we have now these kids have a target. Here's the subject matter. This is what we're gonna put on this wall. So now the graffiti's not just graffiti, it's an art.
It's art
with a statement.
Okay, and the kids gravitate already towards that art style or that art form.
Being able to do it where they do it.
Yes. Okay.
That's the cheat code for like kids. I'm gonna paint on the wall now. You're allowed to do it.
Right.
As long as you do with the right message.
Right. So how does a parent find out about this I Know Hip Hop program?
Well, one of the things, since it is the learning partnership,
Mm-hmm.
we will support everything that this young man does because of his authenticity.
So they can contact Saturday Academy, and they would be able to find out through Saturday Academy about the I Know Hip Hop
Sure, and that would
program.
be done, of course, by way of the Virginia Center for Public Safety.
Got it.
And our webpage, you have it.
Yes.
You can give the webpage, and that's the way we keep it flowing. Because once I get it, I pass it on to the proper person and/or persons. So yes, the Virginia Center for Public Safety, advocacy through the arts. And our learning partnership right now with our Speakers Bureau is getting ready to move.
Okay.
We have 5 young people, especially the young lady who spoke the poem. When I say spoke it, articulated with oration at our event of Voices, Vision, and Victory. Hopefully she'll be the one who will be speaking for the MLK Day in 2025 at the Bell Tower there in Richmond.
Okay. And so families or parents or students, whoever is interested, you can find out more about the I Know Hip Hop program as well as Saturday Academy. And it's About Saving Lives programs by visiting the www.vacps.org. That's vacps.org. And you can find out all that information. Before we end, I just want to ask a question about the youth education and advocacy through the arts, because you had mentioned about a quilt, the students coming together to create a quilt. Can you tell us a little bit why they chose to make a quilt, and what that program does for students or for youth, and how it affects their community?
I received the idea from one of my cohorts in Washington, D.C. by the name of Stephanie Perry. And Stephanie Perry said it would be nice to do some sort of a craft with young people. And I was going to Michael's and all of that. And then a young lady that I work with, who was also a part of the Saturday Academy, but she's in Isle of Wight, Dr. Barbara Wiggins. Dr. Barbara Wiggins said, you know what? I know someone who could do a quilt for you. And that's how the quilt became a reality.
Okay.
We went down to the quilters, and the quilters, those ladies actually cut out orange squares for us. And when they cut out the orange squares, the young people wrote their statements on the squares. And I took the squares back to the ladies, and they put it together. Of course, orange and blue, and outlined on the side of it, it's about saving lives.
Okay. I liked when you told me they made a quilt, because, and you brought up earlier about quilts being a part of our history, something that African Americans used to be quite common to do. But I like it because it tells a story. It is an artifact. It's more than just something that you're keeping yourself warm with. It's something that is telling a story, and it's telling a history, and then it also can be projecting the future. So I really like that with the quilt. I also want to just go back to Mr. Armistead, and just if you could tell us a little bit about Tough Love Productions or production. Are there any other projects that your company or organization is doing?
Right now, since meeting Dr. Hayes, and lining up with a few people that he's introduced me to, the projects is pretty much about saving lives. You know, that's where we want to keep the aim. That's where we want to keep the aim at. The focus on kids talking everything positive other than negative. Because, like you said, it is the power of the words.
Mm-hmm.
You know, you speak violence, violence is coming right back at you.
Right.
You know, and just trying to change the narrative that way. That's the key. You know, it's about saving lives, and this is where we really want to keep our focus.
Right.
So it's not a stop the violence movement. It's not a put down the guns movement. It's about it's kids that need attention, and that's where I come into play with my production, teaching them how to do what I do, which gives them a chance to operate a little differently. They don't have to say anything. They can do things.
Yeah. I think I really like, you said this before, it's about saving lives the last time you were on, but just having an opportunity to think about it and then just discussing it with you all today. It's important that the narrative changes and you're using that phrase, it's about saving lives, because when you make it about the life as opposed to about a particular action that might end a life, and the work that you all are doing, it's giving children, youth, their parents value. And when you value something, when you have value, you'll protect it. When you're teaching them to write lyrics and writing, you're teaching them how to communicate. When you're teaching, I'm assuming, like when you're doing, I know hip hop, you might talk about battling, but you're talking about conflict resolution. You're giving them right, and you're teaching them vocabulary and how they're able to express themselves. Because I think a lot of people might be a little bit like, art is kind of woo-woo. How is that really like affecting is it going to impact or change what's going on? But it's giving them value, it's giving them skills in a way that students, they don't feel preached to about it.
Right.
They're able to take hold of it, make it their own. They are able to utilize their gifts, maybe be exposed to something new through the arts. Is really like it's a non-invasive way to make a change. It is a way to influence people. I have 2 boys and I tell them all the time, the music that you listen to is very important because it's subtle.
Yes.
It's a subtle influence.
Yes.
You don't have to be direct, or you don't have to necessarily agree with everything. Like, Mom, I'm just listening. Kids will say, I know when I was younger, kids would say like, it's just a beat. I like the beat. But what's the words that are underneath
That's
there are
word
getting
right
to
there.
you?
It's the frequency.
Yeah.
And I had to learn about frequency from these radio stations. What's the frequency?
Yeah.
But there's something within it.
That right frequency with the right words can have a lot of
add
power.
Also, that like I said, Dr. Hayes had me come to another one of the events that we went to. That poem, and the reason why it meant a lot to me about saving lives. I did lose my son.
Okay.
Getting shot in the streets. So when I tell the kids, this is the last thing I tell them, that this happened, because getting that close to them and telling them that up front, they're like, well, kids always get shot out in the streets. Well, you don't know what it's like until it's yours, until it's you.
Right.
So I don't tell the kids that until they get to know me.
Right.
Because once they get to know me, they're like, well, this is why we're getting so close. Because, you don't get so close to people. I really don't. But these kids here in Portsmouth, people call them bad. They're not bad. They're just misunderstood. And they don't get attention. So they get it from me, and I love it. So.
May I add that I was told that publicly. He didn't even tell me that. So it made sense to me publicly when he was standing there saying it, why it grabbed the breath of his heart.
Mm.
See, because your heart breathes, but where he was grieving, he had fresh breath. Based on a poem written by a man 80 years old, it's about saving lives. So that we could culminate with our nonviolence piece with 3 words: voices, vision, victory.
Okay. Voices, vision, victory.
That's it.
And if we all work together, we will have victory.
And that's it.
So I just want to say thank you so much to Dr. Mark Hayes, as well as to Mr. Edmond Armistead. It's been a pleasure having this conversation with you. And for all of our listeners, I want you to visit www.vacps.org. Remember, this is your city, this is our city, so let's work together to make it great. Thank you so much.
The Reverend says, it's about saving lives.
It's about saving lives. It's about saving lives. It's about saving lives.
The Reverend says,
it's about saving lives.